Welcome back to Terrier Nation. I'm your host, Sophia Ozano.
And I'm Haley Alvarez-Lauto. On this episode of Terrier Nation, Connors and Addison Morin catches us up on men's lacrosse.
We'll hear from Ryan Owens and Sally Yuan as they update us on softball. And finally, Jack Hughes will give us the latest on rowing.
All this and more tonight on Terrier Nation.
Thanks, Sophia and Haley. The Boston University men's lacrosse team recently dropped out of the national rankings after losing 3 of their past 4 games. I'm Hannah Connors, and that's Addison Morin, here to break it all down for you. Previously ranked 15th in the country, the Terriers started the season off strong, having lost only 1 of their first 8 games, but recently they have struggled to find consistency in their past few matchups. Addison, do you want to start to break it down?
Sure thing, Hannah. The Terriers' fall in the polls started when they faced their Charles River rival, the Harvard Crimson. The Terriers struggled to maintain offensive possession and dug themselves into a deep hole they couldn't get out of in the first quarter. The Crimson came out strong, netting 4 goals in just the first 5 minutes of the first quarter. While the Terriers were able to get 2 goals, one from Andrew Pape and another from Ben Morris, Harvard responded with 3 more goals ending the first quarter with a 7-2 goal deficit.
The second quarter was a similar narrative, and while the Terriers kept the Harvard to only 4 more goals, they could only generate 1 goal themselves. Moving into the third quarter, the Terriers showed some early signs of energy, but this was short-lived, leaving the Crimson able to cleanly sweep away a win.
In their next game against Holy Cross, the Terriers had a dominating win, 16-4. They took control early with a 5-0 halftime lead, and then went on a tear, scoring 9 unanswered goals to make it 14-0. Senior Jimmy O'Connell had 4 of the goals, and junior Jimmy Core had 3. Goaltender Will Barnes stopped all 10 shots he faced across 3 quarters, and he was then replaced by Connor Phillips, a freshman, making his collegiate debut. A complete team performance from start to finish, but unfortunately that momentum didn't last.
Yeah, that's right, Addison. The Terriers fell to the Duke University Blue Devils 12-7 in their homecoming game. An early push from the Blue Devils in the first half was a difference maker. Having outscored the Terriers 5-1 in the second quarter and having a strong finish in the final quarter, Duke's polished playing style left the Terriers struggling. Discipline was the biggest problem in this game, as the Terriers were called for 6 penalties. Keeping all the players on the field the whole game is a key to taking away these tough victories. Despite BU's effort to close the gap in the third quarter, including standout performances from Jimmy O'Connell, who netted 2 goals and tallied 3 assists, as well as strong performances from Timothy Shanahan and Jimmy Core, it was not enough to pass Duke's early lead. I will say, one bright spot I did see was effort on BU's 10-man ride, which stopped 8 of Duke's clears. Hopefully the team can build on this the rest of the season, as it could be a key to winning matchups as the team edges close to playoffs.
I completely agree, Hannah, because in their most recent matchup, the Terriers came up short against Lafayette, falling 11-9, a game which most expected BU to come out on top of. Senior Jimmy O'Connell tied his career high with 4 goals, but his standout performance wasn't enough to lift the Terriers to a win over the weekend. Boston University trailed 5-2 at the half. The Leopards opened the third quarter with 2 quick goals, but the Terriers answered with a determined 3-0 scoring run, featuring 2 goals from junior Jimmy Core. Despite trading blows with Lafayette's high-powered offense, the Terriers couldn't complete the comeback. Still, their resilient second-half performance hints at their potential heading into the playoffs.
There are 2 more regular season games before the Patriot League tournament. I have no doubt the Terriers will be thirsty for revenge, giving their fall to Lehigh in the Patriot League championship game last season, keeping them out of the NCAA playoffs.
The Terriers are going to have to address the inconsistencies over the last few games to make a deep playoff run, but the potential is no doubt there. Now we're going to pass it off to Ryan and Sally with the latest from the softball squad.
Thanks, guys. BU softball has been on a roll lately, and this past week was no exception. They continued their spring campaign with a strong showing and a few tough lessons on a diamond as they strengthened their mid-season momentum.
That's right, Sally. And first up was Holy Cross. BU took the short trip to Worcester and came back with 3 dominant victories. The first match, an 11-1 victory by the Terriers, was marked with 5 runs in the first inning, and Megan Coyle tying a program record with 7 RBIs in a single game. The next 2 matches were similar 6-1 victories, with balanced hitting throughout the lineup and shutdown pitching performances from Casey Ricard being the name of the game. BU outscored their opponents by a combined 23-3 in the series, crusading to a series sweep.
Then on Wednesday, the Terriers kept their winning ways going in a hard-fought 2-1 victory against Boston College. This one came down to the wire after 6 tie innings. Kylie Doherty came through in the clutch, launching a solo shot to center field in the top of the 7th, her second homer of the week. On the mound, Casey Ricard was unfazed by the pressure. She scattered 4 hits over 7 strong innings, struck out 4, and didn't allow an earning run. Her composure and consistency were key to sealing the win and marking her 18th victory of the season.
And that made it 4 straight wins for BU heading into the weekend. And they did it with balance. The defense has been clean and consistent. Offensively, they were getting production up and down the lineup, with key hits coming in big moments. And of course, Casey Ricard has been the anchor in the circle. However, they did encounter a few setbacks.
That's right, Ryan. The Terriers failed to record a win during their doubleheader at home against Kentucky on Friday. The pair of losses were begun by a Game 1 barn burner that ultimately went the way of the Wildcats after going into extras. BU stranded 12 runners on base in that match, losing a 43-game home unbeaten streak, yet it was nothing compared to the 13-4 thrashing they suffered afterward. The game got bad enough that it was ended after 5 innings.
BU did manage to quickly return to their winning ways, however, sweeping a doubleheader on Wednesday against Stonehill. Game 1 belonged to Ricard, who threw 121 pitches and 10 strikeouts while only giving up 2 runs. Kylie Doherty and Megan Coyle each went 3 for 4, combining for 6 hits and 3 runs on the day. Game 2 was much of the same, with Ava Johnson throwing a complete game shutout in just 88 pitches, while Brooke Depies went 3 for 3 and Doherty added 3 runs to seal the game.
The Terriers will hope to play more like the team that played Stonehill than the group who lost to Kentucky this weekend, as their upcoming series is a 3-game set against Patriot League rival Army. The Black Knights have been very similar to BU this season, with each team recently on hot streak before cooling off. The 2 programs sit atop the conference standing going into this series, which is sure to be a fun one. We'll have to wait and see how it all shakes out. Now over to Jack for Terrier Rowing.
Thanks, Ryan and Sally. Boston University rowing is powering through the tail end of their seasons, posting solid times and persevering through the ever-tumultuous Charles River time and time again. Starting with the men's squad, they finished up a stretch of weeks where they competed for 3 cups, starting with the Michelson Cup versus Brown, then the Arlott Cup against Northeastern, and capping it off with the Bill Cup versus Dartmouth. While the results were not what the Terriers were looking for, getting swept in all 3 cups, the team put up competitive times in rough morning conditions, including encountering snow on April 12th against Dartmouth. They've now completed all their scheduled races on the Charles River, with their next races out in Worcester on April 19th and Lake Maury, Vermont on the 26th. On the women's side, they also completed their final race on the Charles River against Northeastern and Columbia, being able to pull out a win in the second Varsity 4 race, one that was shortened due to whitecaps created by choppy waters. They now have a break before making the trip down to North Carolina to participate in the Lake Wheeler Invite in preparation for their attempt to repeat as Patriot League champions on May 16th. Lastly, the women's lightweight squad closed out a weekend in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, winning the lightweight 8 final and the varsity 8 final. Unlike the other 2 squads, the lightweight team has to brave the Charles River one more time on April 19th in a rowing beanpot matchup against Harvard and MIT, looking for revenge after dropping the varsity race to Harvard last year. Now, well, that's all I have. Now back to Sophia and Haley at the desk.
Thanks, Jack. That's all we have time for tonight on Terrier Nation. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and X for the latest Terrier sports updates at Terrier Nation 10. I'm Haley Alvarez-Lauto.
And I'm Sophia Ozano. Before we wrap up this episode, I'd like to give the biggest thank you to Haley Alvarez-Lauto, our show's producer, for the last 2 years. Words cannot describe how much Haley has done for the show, and I can't wait to see where the future will take her. Thank you for being such a great mentor to all of us here at BUTV, and we wish you the best at graduation and beyond.
Thank you, Sophia, for such a kind send-off. As I graduate this May, I'm so sad to be leaving behind the Terrier Nation family. I've been an integral part with BUTV and producing for Terrier Nation these past couple years has been an amazing experience and really been integral to my whole BU experience. So I'm really excited to see where the show continues with you and the success of the rest of the cast and crew. You guys are all so hardworking, and I know you guys are going to continue to thrive. So yeah, I'm really excited to be finishing this chapter of my life and also excited to see you guys continue.
Thank you so much, Haley. But that's all we have time for tonight on Terrier Nation. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next season.